All right, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 741. Breathing issues have been extra bad recently, so if I'm a little out of breath or if I take pauses in the middle of sentences for no reason and it seems weird, like you're gonna complain, write a letter to me, like, what the fuck? You broke the flow of your sentence. I'm like, okay, whatever. Complain about it later when my breathing issues go away. Because when flow of oxygen gets cut off to your head, it's really interesting because your thought process, you have to recalibrate your entire thought process to accommodate the fact that you have a whole new rhythm of speech. It's weird because about 3 years ago, there was a wisdom tooth surgery I had. The doctor greeted me, and I started exchanging wisecracks with the guy, and he kind of went, oh, we got ourselves a wise guy over here, and the thing is that he was, cracking jokes too, and it was interesting because the guy seemed so carefree. He seemed like the, typical carefree dentist who was totally not going to have a sneeze in the middle of fucking with your tooth with a large sharp tool in the middle of your mouth. But when he actually got around to doing my wisdom tooth surgery, and if you go to my main channel little banner, you'll see a picture of my sink with a bunch of blood in it. And that, if you want to know the backstory behind that, that's not food coloring. That's when I sneezed into my sink when a nerve or some sort of vein, some sort of, not a jugular vein, because that's down here, but some sort of, I guess, subjugular vein was fucked up because when the guy was getting my wisdom teeth out, some of my teeth were upside down, and some of them were sideways, which I guess is normal, but one tooth was at a weird diagonal angle in such a strange position in my mouth. He had to get a bone saw and saw my tooth into 5 pieces because my nerves were in my gums. So if he sawed through my nerve, I mean, there's no way around it. They haven't found a way to prosthetically replace your mouth nerves yet. So I would fuck up my mouth forever, and one side of my mouth would be unmovable. Be a lot harder to talk during a paper stream or eat paper at all then. And this is in the middle of my entire thing. So this guy fucked up and severed some sort of subjugular vein in my gums. So if he fucks that up, imagine what he could have messed up if he had sneezed a little fucking harder. Now, I was under anesthesia, so I have no recollection of what happened. I was unconscious. My eyes were closed. However, I will interpret this entire event as me being very lucky that I escaped with my life. No tooth. I actually did have my wisdom teeth taken out and put in a small Tupperware. I have since lost them, but I do believe I have a picture on my camera roll. Okay, here we go. On the topicalities of all this, like what I was saying at the very beginning, and the reason I'm talking about this, I don't know how I got here in conversation, but my breathing's been a little weird since, and we're still dealing with this whole chloride situation where there is a theory, and yes, I think most of you have heard this theory before, but to keep everybody up to date, shut the fuck up, Mr. Guard, all right? You get your paper later, all right? You're sitting here, all right? You get what you pay for, and you're paying $0.00, all right? You get some talking and some paper reading, so shut your fucking mouth, or shut your keyboard up, or whatever the hell you're using. Get your cock off your keyboard. Stop typing some bullshit. I got my paper. That's great. Look in the mirror and eat some paper yourself, all right? That'll keep you entertained while you wait for me to finish my fucking sentence, all right? Give me some time. So as I was saying, this guy fucked up my wisdom tooth surgery, and I needed to get a blood transfusion. And I think the topicality of blood is what kind of transitioned me over to here. So the whole thing about this is that I got one blood transfusion before. I can get it again. But if you want to know, the blood that you see in my sink in that channel banner is like maybe 1/4 of all the blood I lost that day. It was a very messy night. We had to do a lot of cleaning. Lots of hydrogen peroxide had to be used on my floorboards. Let him cook. Thank you, Johnny Cook. I appreciate that. That should be your new catchphrase. I want to let Johnny cook. Every comment you put out is either a banger or something like mildly confusing that I don't even know how to respond to. I'm having a sleepover with all my buds. Say hello, hello. And you guys interrupted me in the middle of my story about how my wisdom tooth surgery got fucked up. You may have heard this one before, all right? Gather your friends around the phone, all right? Treat my phone like a campfire, all right? Warm your tonsils, warm your testicles, and, get some friction going. Oh, man, Breen's going to tell a crazy story. So anyways, this guy fucked up and severed my vein in my mouth. And it's preferable to say paralyzing half of my face. But when all this happened, I got into a big argument with the doctor because I had to go in and visit again. And I went, listen, if you were a gonad surgeon and you fucked up and you severed one of the nerve endings in my cock and I could never masturbate again, what the hell was I supposed to do? How would I get retribution? How would I pay myself back and the entirety of society back based off my moral principles for having you deleting my cock from my body? And the only feasible answer to this question is I would have to delete his cock too. And in telling him this, the jokey, carefree, happy go lucky personality of this fucking guy dissipated immediately. And he switched into, are you insinuating that you want to fuck up a wisdom tooth surgery on me, huh? You want to get your surgeon's papers, graduate from college, and then take me in for a surgery and sever something of mine? And we went back and forth for a little bit, lots of hooting and hollering. And at the end of the day, I never did that wisdom tooth surgery on him. I never paid him back for his misdeed he did to me. But I'll find that son of a bitch. I'll get him back later. Have I seen the new Godzilla? You mean the one with the really awful advertisement? I saw that one. I don't know, man. Again, I've been advocating for this for years. We have to change the formula of movie trailers. Go back to like the 1980s, like 1983, I think it was, when Poltergeist was released, and you see the trailer for it, and it's one of the most funny B movie looking things I've ever seen in my life. But it is more convincing to have me watch that movie than any of the trailers I see now. It's like the same guy edited all of these fucking, and I know they didn't. So, because no one person can take that much time to edit that many shitty trailers. And I know you could creatively, it just, if you write down the idea on paper, yeah, you could pump all them out. You could stretch your proverbial birth canal and squeeze out like triplets of these fucking terrible movie trailers easily. But when it comes to the actual technical work that needs to be done, no, it's multiple people on the job. So I guarantee you there's a checklist that movie studios have that everybody just has to copy off of. Oh, right. Now I remember what I was originally talking about. So there is a chemical known to bleach paper called chloride. I say as I swallow paper. I'm going to say that me eating paper, there's a theory that over long periods of time, now it's been shown that chloride, if ingested through the body, and I'm going to assume through the very vague description that Mayo Clinic gave me, this means short term. All right. So long term, like say if you take in maybe half a liter of liquid chloride, if such a thing exists all at once. Again, I'm using a hypothetical. I'm not a doctor, nor am I a chemist. But if you were to say eat pieces of paper that contain small trace amounts of chloride, and again, the article I saw did not confirm whether or not paper for sure has chloride. It says may contain trace amounts of. So I'm taking that wording and then I'm really taking it to heart. That's going to be written in paper. I'm going to be using this very strictly and literally when discussing what does this do to me? Does it do anything? Is this power of suggestion? Because a lot of the asthma I have been diagnosed with, and I use air quotes because, again, I don't want to spread some sort of victim identity thing with me. But technically, it is written in paper that I have an official diagnosis of asthma now. And they're saying it's psychosomatic. But they're saying, now just because they're doctors doesn't mean that they're right. And again, just because I'm not a doctor doesn't mean that I'm right either. So the deal is, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to, I don't know, we got our blood drawn. If there's a way to test out the fact, and by the way, yes, my blood, the parts of my blood that absorb oxygen, what chloride apparently does, according to certain things written on the internet, which we totally trust, don't we, is that chloride within paper will deplete the parts of your blood that absorbs oxygen. So air is going into my mouth. Now, there are people doing my respiratory tests who detected secretions. I don't know what that means. What's secreting from the holes of my lungs? Like what, mucus? I don't know, like liquid Play-Doh? What the fuck is it? But they didn't tell me that. They just said secretions. I'm just going to assume it's mucus. So, I'm still working out the details, and of course, the app that we use to contact our medical professionals, they just switched it, and I'm left picking up the pieces. And on this new app, they supply you no information about any of your diagnosis or any information that came back from a blood test. So we're still going to figure it out. Now, to get back to the whole thing about the Godzilla advertisement, I feel like Godzilla Minus One, it's like a fan base that really appreciates how cool the idea of a kaiju is, or what I think they're called kaijus. Again, I'm not very good at second languages, so I'm just going to assume that a Godzilla means kaiju. And I'm also going to say that, like, I know these people like the idea of a kaiju, especially the new people who are here watching me. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the Godzilla movies have been really starving fans, and they've just been as optimistic as possible. A tear rolls from their eye, and they go, "Fuck, this one was a 5 out of 10." But you know what? I'm just glad it exists. I'm glad that Godzilla is still relevant somehow. You know, nobody makes movies about the Loch Ness monster anymore. There's like one documentary, and that's it. Wow, 0 viewers. Come on, guys. Right when I start talking about Godzilla, you guys leave. Either that's a glitch or you guys suck. So, you know, um, what have I been missing? My testicles are always warm around you. Oh, thanks, Hadi Salim. And I actually remember you, by the way, despite your default profile picture. One of the most wholesome paper stream participatory people. There you go. It's a quadruple P. The paper participatory person. That's right. That's a thing I just said. Say it out loud. It's not in my country, so it is what it is. What's unfortunate is if I go off on a rant like this and I don't look at chat, I'm not going to know anything. I'm not going to know what that pertains to. Too much TV spots. What for Godzilla? Go find it online with VPN. I'll try. Yikes, dude. Great, I'm the only one here. I'm still here. Hell yeah, Hottie Slim says that's right. You get a salute, even though you're probably not in America based off your name, but it's okay. I believe a salute it's universal, I think. Actually, no, scratch that. It's definitely not. God damn it. I don't think they do the salute over in Azerbaijan or wherever you are. I live near it's my favorite country. So that was you. You're the guy who's been making a big stink. I thought that was me who was farting, but that was just you. It's unfortunate. Yeah, if it's in your walls, there's lots of insulation, and that spreads scent. So you're fucking up the entire scent of my house. My dad thinks it's me, but that old man, he doesn't know how to track where his smells come from. I've broken out of my bed. You know, you can watch my streams from in bed, right? You can do that. So I don't know why you're deciding to waste valuable energy and valuable comfort to just watch my stream. What, in your hallway or like on your toilet? Come on, man. I know. Listen, no hard feelings. It's fine. Consider this a learning experience. Okay. I live in your toilet. I know. All you guys have been spying on me. Hadi Salim's been farting in my walls. Mr. Guard over here has been in my toilet spying on my prolapsed anus every single time I sit down. The rest of you guys are probably just elsewhere in my house, some other place. I'm going to guess that Caden's in my fridge. It's fine, Caden. We'll get on your diet later. Also, I think he's gone. So, Caden's really an in and out kind of guy. He just pops in, having a sleepover. Bye. I'm behind your green screen. Yeah. Good one. Oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, listen, man. You could watch my stream anywhere. Why do you need to be here specifically in order to watch it? You have good Wi-Fi, right? You get the fuck out of here. I swear, man. People do not know boundaries these days. Kerr, come on, bro. It's fine. You really have broken out of your bed, though. I'm telling you, you gotta just get back in bed. And I'm gonna assume you live more than 4 blocks away from me. You got a long drive ahead of you. Get the fuck out of here. I swear to God, some people, man. Anyways, you poop 6 times a day. Actually, I poop 7 times a day. I believe you were taking a nap during my 7th time, so gotta stay vigilant, man. Okay. Why are you deleting Womp Womp specifically? Okay. That's so mysterious. I don't understand why you guys retract messages. It's one of the most confusing things that happens in live chat. I misspelled. Understandable. Do not delete that. Thanks. There you go. We're good. So I've been getting into Paul Thomas Anderson movies recently. One thing about directors, I feel like a lot of them have a directing personality unless you like work for Marvel or some other big company or you're directing a Godzilla movie. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But Paul Thomas Anderson, I mean, it's the genre of director where it's like in between the weird art house guys who make the indie films of like naked women diving onto mattresses in the middle of a meadow or some like stupid allegory-based shit that makes no sense. And then the big mainstream things that have generally no value because nobody actually writes it. It's like either an algorithm or some fat bald guy in a suit. But it's like that perfect line that gets threaded with but with just people who are making movies that are palatable, just the right amount of palatable, but they take lots of their own liberties, which is something that's missing in like 90% of movies. And I know this, and I can actually measure this number out because I work in a movie theater and I see most of the movies that come out. I involuntarily have to watch them when serving popcorn to the losers who choose to watch them. And unfortunately, much to my what's the word, chagrin, it sucks. They all suck. 2024 has been a pretty ass year for movies. I don't think a single one's come out that I've been impressed with. Even Love Lies Bleeding. It did not feel like an A24 movie. It felt like a B movie. It felt like it was made by the same directors who made like Saw 7. Just disguising itself as an A24. When the guy breaks his jaw, it's clearly CGI, and it's like the 3D model they have for the jaw hanging off the guy's face is like clipping into the rest of his face. It's so unprofessional. Come on, guys. Is tomorrow going to be a pre-recorded or a live stream? Well, we cannot foretell what the future is going to be. The world of paper reading is unpredictable. Twists and turns around every corner. And a corner is also technically a turn. So you get the fucking idea. All right. Obviously, we can predict when it's going to happen once a day. But how it's going to happen, we can't predict. And also, I've been really deciding whether or not to even continue with these day after day. Again, the Godzilla YouTubers shouting me out, I am endlessly thankful for that. However, they may have done the right thing for the wrong reasons, because the fact of the matter is, this whole chloride conspiracy theory that is still unconfirmed because my doctors are actual slack jobs. I am still looking into that, but if any of it is true to any degree, and the blood test comes back and it shows signs of deficiencies in oxygen intake, we will have to halt the streams immediately because these breathing problems are making my life fucking unlivable. In fact, I had to take a deep breath after saying that big long sentence. It's not from anxiety or nothing. It's literally just because the oxygen is apparently not absorbing its way into my lungs. And yes, they did detect secretions. Now, when they say it's psychosomatic, I don't know to what extent that is. So, it's fine. I don't mind pre-recorded. I know. And I actually, you'd be surprised, when I sandwiched the paper, the toilet paper, mind you, this was the worst kind of paper, in between the two sides of an Oreo, tasted surprisingly good. So, just so you know, you and I, we have a mutual agreement. I don't mind the pre-recordeds either. I haven't watched Godzilla. I'm not gonna watch it. I might watch it if they let me get the free Nerds clusters again, and they've been a little spotty with that recently. But as long as I work extra hard, and I kiss Rodney's butt, meaning my manager, my lovely manager, who might be watching this, and I want to say it's fine to be bald. Bald is beautiful, and you're a great manager. Keep up the good work. Give me free candy, thank you. If I suck up to the managers enough, who are beautiful, and I love the establishment, of course, then I might just be able to be coerced through high fructose corn syrup intake into watching Godzilla v Kong. But after Godzilla -1, I think the Godzilla fans have had their proper run for a good movie for the next, I don't know, I'd say like the next decade and a half. I don't think you're going to get a movie that good for a while, guys. I'm sorry. I know the studios have the capability to do it. It's nothing against Godzilla. It's just that if people see something as like a B movie thing, then just, I guess they're just going to keep it that way. However, some of the greatest examples of film, television, anything in culture are people who are considered, like, say, second rate, or B movie actors, or B movie directors, or an actor in a completely different genre that would seem out of place, and then putting them in a new environment when they have the talent. For some reason, I think a curse is a negative thing, so it has kind of a positive hex. That's how I'll say it. A spiritual effect on movies. Breaking Bad, one of the greatest shows ever. They took Bryan Cranston, who was known for playing Hal in Malcolm in the Middle, being in like a spandex suit, jogging around and like slipping on banana peels and being like a goofy Homer, like a less overweight Homer Simpson type dad, and cast him as this guy who turns into the most weird, dramatically complex people in a TV show ever, like tops Tony Soprano, which is really impressive. That ended up being such a selling point. And of course, context matters when you're taking in art. So when you're taking in Breaking Bad, you're looking at the fact that this guy went from comedy career, making fart jokes or something like that. I know that he didn't do that in Malcolm in the Middle too much. Was that you who moved my green screen? Go home already, man. And he went from doing this like really goofy Looney Tune shit to doing maybe a goofy Looney Tunes thing, like, I'm talking to Ted, that whole thing. I mean, that's great. But, he didn't really need, I mean, it did add a lot though. But I mean, still, that was not the primary thing of his on display. And so it seems like some of the best movies involve those guys being given a second wind. That was Bryan Cranston's second wind. The Lighthouse or Good Time, right? Robert Pattinson, known mainly for playing one of the most annoying characters in one of the most annoying movies ever, Twilight. And, he got a resurgence by, basically chalking it up with Willem Dafoe, being buddy with him, trying to exhibit his acting chops, excuse my language, his acting chops the best he could. And of course, he succeeded. I forgot how to unlock a door, get a large bone saw. So he decided to give his own career a second wind by actually breaking out of his comfort zone and accepting better deals. Poor Things was the same thing, where Mark Ruffalo decided to, break out of this whole midlife crisis dad bit that he was doing, which was like everybody was getting tired of, including him most of all. Same thing with what is it? Oh, fuck, what was his name? Zac Efron, the guy from High School Musical, a movie that I'm never going to watch ever in my life, and that could have been all he would ever be known for. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where an actor has been given a second chance like that to break out of his comfort zone, and it hasn't worked. And maybe that's just because I'm not watching enough, or maybe the failures are just so miserable that people just don't want to even pay attention to it. In fact, I guarantee, actually, now that I think about it, John Travolta in The Fanatic is probably a great example of that. Oh, except John Travolta had been flopping for a while. I mean, ever since Pulp Fiction was over and done with, he had Grease, he had Saturday Night Fever. He came back and he, cosplayed being a good dancer again in Pulp Fiction. Then it was over. And then he was in like Gotti. He was in like that weird movie about God. And it was an Italian mobster movie. And I didn't eat a fucking single meatball. And Italian mobster films need the Italian food. And they fuck. How do you fuck up that bad? Anyways, so I don't think that's a fair example. Like, give me an example of when a studio tried to do something with like Zac Efron and Iron Claw, or Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse, and people overlook this. Even Bryan Cranston and Bob Odenkirk in their respective TV shows, they went from being just these Seinfeld actors who did fart jokes on a wacky, goofy sitcom, either with or without a laugh track, and went to playing one of the most complex, dramatic role you possibly could, the protagonist in a continuing series, it's basically just two giant character studies. I mean, that's very different than just being an extra on Seinfeld. So, what did I miss? Me talking about my respiratory problems, which affects this stream, by the way. So this concerns you. And then two, me talking about TV shows, movies, the usual shit. So I forgot how to get out the toilet. You got to lose weight, man. If you're going to eat paper, paper takes up a surprising amount of space in your stomach. Here, I've gained a lot of weight. Here, check this shit out. See, look. I used to not have this, but now I'm fat. You see? Ow. Damn. I'm not fat enough for the fat to like get in the way of my hand and my nerve ending, so I can still feel pain. But trust me when I say that it's I'm getting painfully fat. And also, I'd like to think that probably the stuff that's making my stomach bulge out might be just giant collections of paper pulp in my stomach cavity, and it's just expanding. That'd be really funny. Although, if that was true, I think I'd be seeing more warning signs. I also just have like the most unhealthy diet known to man. Like I don't even eat breakfast, and when I do, it's like really unhealthy, carbs, high fructose. Like my metabolism can handle it, or maybe it could handle it a little more. But now I'm getting older, and I'm in my 20s now. Like not just 20, like I'm well into my 20s, 21. And I think my metabolism's slowing down, and I'm actually showing signs of age. So like I think that this is probably not like just using wait, hold on. Oh shit. Using process of elimination, this is probably not a large collection of pulp gathering up in my stomach. If that was true and my stomach cavity was unhealthily expanding for the last like year, I think I'd feel more pain in my stomach. And sometimes I do get stomach aches, but that's probably because of all the high fructose corn syrup. But there'd be some other shit going on. I guarantee you. Again, not a doctor, but that is my educated guess based off my usage of common sense. So, is that the only thing you eat? Paper? Of course. Everybody knows you can subsist off only paper. So, I was talking to the nerd. I know, right when I confirmed that I am in fact not confused. Yes, I'm in the toilet. The two of you guys. I appreciate the fact that Godzilla fans are engaging. I just keep forgetting that sometimes Godzilla fans can have the brain of a Godzilla, which is basically just, where's the paper? Let me see you eat the paper. One goal in mind. I want to gobble up this content. Godzilla wanted to gobble up human beings. You guys only want one thing, and at all costs, you want to gobble up the content of me gobbling paper. Thank you very much. That's getting pinned. I appreciate that. Come on, Kerr. There's a little bit of Godzilla in all of us. All right. Second to last piece. Last piece I just tore right here. This stream's gone on long enough. In conclusion, Paul Thomas Anderson's an interesting director. There's nothing about his directing that made me stand out except for quality. The only thing about his movies that stands out to me is that they're all pretty consistently good, but it seems like he's one of those directors he took from Kubrick's book. And Kubrick's whole thing is, I'm going to make every genre of movie exactly once and never do it again. Although to me, I always felt like Stanley Kubrick's movies were always just horror movies in disguise. Like, if you listen to the soundtrack of 2001: A Space Odyssey, some of that shit is fucking terrifying, like scarier than even some Ari Aster horror films. So, I don't know, man. I feel like he always wanted to make The Shining. He just was working his way up to it. Doctor Strangelove, not really, although the concept of it is pretty frightening. Just it's kind of portrayed in a backwards way. And the whole idea of that entire movie is that I'm going to go now. All right, love you. Mwah. See ya. I know. All right, both of you guys are dipping right when I start talking about Kubrick. Come on, guys. Grow up. Part of growing up and puberty completing itself is acknowledging that Kubrick is cool. No? All right. Well, you'll grow up later. It's fine. You seem to be a late bloomer. It's fine. But it always felt to me like Doctor Strangelove was one of those movies where he was trying, like, I feel like that's one of the most unusual Kubrick films, and nobody really talks about it because they were too busy on Peter Sellers doing the Nazi salute at the end of the movie. But really, if you distract yourself from that, like, dude, Inspector Clouseau's saluting the Nazis, and that's funny and all, but like, Kubrick helped write that screenplay along with him, so people think of him as just a rote copy and paster. He only goes off books. Clockwork Orange was a book. 2001 was a book. Shining was a book. Barry Lyndon was probably in history books. I don't know. That's the one Kubrick film I have not watched yet, aside from Eyes Wide Shut, the horny movie with Tom Cruise, and apparently he gets horny. But most Kubrick films, especially the most well-known ones, were taken from books. But the guy knows how to write a screenplay. And I know he had help from Peter Sellers on that movie, but still, he had a hand in writing it, making it uniquely his own. And it's such a great movie. Really, really good. I think my favorite Kubrick film right now. So I have not watched Paths of Glory. I have not watched Barry Lyndon. I have not watched Eyes Wide Shut. And I have not watched the second half of Full Metal Jacket. So I have a lot to go. But I'll get there. Don't worry. It's all good. I've seen 2001. It's a movie I end up appreciating a lot more than actually enjoying. It's just, to me, it's such a slog. To me, it reads more like a glorified tech demo than an actual movie. And listen, it's still good. I appreciate it, but it gives me this plot, and I think the best part is like the Gorilla Bone intro, like the one with the music where they're like using bones to smash other bones. Like that part's cool, but the rest of it I can like take or leave, honestly. Like The Shining in every way is more interesting. Doctor Strangelove in every single conceivable way is more entertaining. Also, the scenes where in Full Metal Jacket where the private is calling everybody a faggot and then like calling the black guy like, I don't know, like a chimney sweeper or some shit. Like all of that's so much more interesting in every way than just watching Hal have passive aggressive robot conversation with the guy who's trying to fight for his life. Like I get it. I get the gimmick. I already watched Wall-E. Wall-E gave me the better version of that. I know Otto was a copy paste of Hal, but I don't give a fuck. He did it better. I don't care about influences. I mean, I can respect it to a degree, but my number one bottom line is based off of how entertaining is this movie. And I'm sorry, man. If it's entertaining, then, you know. I like Wall-E or however you spell that. Yeah, no, I think it's weird because with Wall-E, if you go on Letterboxd, it's not a hyphen. It's like a period. It's not a period. It's here. Let me find this. Yeah, it's one of these. It's like these. It's not a period, but it's like a floating period. I don't know what you call that. I'll just call it a hyphen on a diet. It's just an extra, you know. It's It's a hyphen with less girth, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not like we need to be super grammatically correct about the letter dividers or whatever you call them. You see, this is part of grammar that I do not even have words for, but I'm just gonna say letter divider, and I'm just gonna say floating period or hyphen on a diet. You can choose one of the two, whichever one you like more. But I appreciate Kubrick though, because he's a guy who treats movies like books. And obviously, by that I don't mean like he's trying to make it identical. Like obviously, he's utilizing film in a way that a book never could. But he wants for people's attention spans in watching movies to be the same as sitting down for like 7 hours and reading a Stephen King novel that's like the thickness of my thigh, which is pretty thick, by the way, if you'll excuse my lack of humbleness. But he really wants us to treat movies like just a sit down and, don't expect to be stimulated the entire time. It's a lost art what Kubrick does. And fewer and fewer directors are doing it. But I think that people, when they gain awareness, there's like a buffer period. And when people gain awareness of that, it's an actual problem that we have. It gets solved. It just takes time. So, But yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson's kind of like Kubrick because I've only seen 2 movies. I've seen Licorice Pizza, which is the stupidest name ever, and I've seen There Will Be Blood, which is a really good movie. It's not as good as people said it would be. They said it was like the greatest movie ever made. Caden over here, I saw his Letterboxd review, and he said it won the award for him for the most overrated movie of all time, which is incorrect. The answer to that is 2001. Thank you very fucking much. But I personally think that the movie definitely confuses me because Paul Dano plays like 2 characters. The guy who gets his head smashed in at the end is a different guy than the guy played by the same fucking guy who comes up to him and starts being all passive aggressive and is like, "Yeah, you better come over to this ranch and then buy my land because there's oil there." Completely different character. Do not know why he decided to cast the same guy as 2 different characters. I guess they're distant cousins, even though it would make more sense that they were identical twins. And it's not a historical rote copying and pasting of stuff that happened in history or anything. It's a historical fiction. So they could have easily taken more liberties. So whatever, Paul. I'm sure that was for a reason that I'll understand later, but it just made the movie more confusing. I couldn't understand what the hell was going on half the time. Yeah, what is that? Yeah, so I'm just gonna say wall.e. How did you do that? Because my keyboard doesn't even have that. Actually, maybe I should look closer. Maybe there's something that I'm missing on my keyboard. No, there's not. There's no symbol like that anywhere. Because there's a period, there's a colon, there's a semicolon, there's my colon, which is a little clogged up right now. I need to take a shit. And then there's brackets, and then there's all this other shit, /, and then a backward slash, which is I'll have to really Google what those 2 of those even mean. And then hyphen underscore. Yeah, there's no middle period. How do you I found it on a copy and paste. Well, that's stupid. Who chose that symbol, man? Just use a hyphen, guys. Who the fuck? Oh, damn it, Pixar. Gotta make things more difficult. They've been difficult ever since WALL-E, actually. Every film they made's bad. But Paul Thomas Anderson, it's really interesting too, because I feel like when looking at a director, it's really fun to kind of look at the variety. Like if you just look at all this shit, you have one of each. You have like romantic drama, which I don't know. I haven't watched this movie. Apparently, it's like one of Adam Sandler's best things, but he plays some angry guy who hates his wife and he beats her up or something like that. This is like some sort of artsy fartsy drama about like a clothing designer. This is like a borderline historical period piece comedy kind of. This is like dramatic fucking thing, dramatic historical fiction about a guy who with a mustache who's evil or whatever, who likes bowling. No spoilers. Never seen this. Apparently, this movie is horny as shit. Lots of cocaine and lots of boobies. This movie is kind of like it's kind of doing like a Pulp Fiction thing, kind of where it's like 10 different stories. Like you can't. It's a movie intentionally designed to make the people who write little summaries on streaming services and other apps just makes their job impossible. It's like, what the fuck do I even write? How do I sum this movie up in one paragraph? An epic mosaic of many interrelated characters in search of happiness, forgiveness, and meaning. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. It's like half of all movies. Oh, The Master. That's another one I wanted to watch. Right? Because it features my two favorite depressive anxiety people. Because it features Philip Seymour Hoffman from Synecdoche, New York, and Joaquin Phoenix from Beau is Afraid. And the reason I bring those two movies up in relation to each other is because Synecdoche, New York, is for anxiety what Beau is Afraid is for, or no. Jesus Christ, Synecdoche, New York is for depression. What Beau is Afraid is for anxiety. Like they're both these 3 hour, absolutely exhausting. Like Synecdoche, New York, and Beau is Afraid are two of the most insane movies. I love those two movies so fucking much. But a lot of people didn't like either of them because they were hard to deal with. But you had these insane actors in leading roles, and Synecdoche, New York is this deep dive into just what depression is. Just like, I think I just shave like 5 years off my mental lifespan watching that movie. In fact, I'm gonna blame half my respiratory issues on that movie because holy crap. No movie makes me feel worse about my life than that movie, but it's such a good movie. So worth it. Beau is Afraid doesn't have as many long-term effects. You know, Synecdoche, New York, when I watch it, it's entertaining, but then when I shut it off, I spend the next like week or so just going, "Oh my god, it's all over. I'm done. My life is fucking over. It was over since when I was born." But with Beau is Afraid, it's the opposite of that. Like when I'm watching the movie, it's one of the most unpleasant fucking experiences of all time ever. Up until the CGI penis, like that part was pretty cool. The giant penis monster scene. I don't even know if that's a spoiler. Like I have no idea how much of a spoiler that is. In fact, I don't even think it is. I don't think that's really a spoiler because that doesn't really tell you anything. It's just it's such a strange thing in the movie. But Beau is Afraid is like the exact opposite of that because but it's also very similar in a way because Beau is Afraid is just anxiety just compounded into a 3-hour movie. And there are like four distinct parts of this movie, and each one explores like a different type of anxiety. Like the first part of him in the city explores like social anxiety, like very surface level anxiety. And what's funny to me is in Beau is Afraid, if you go further into the movie as it progresses from setting to setting, with each type of anxiety it uncovers, the type of anxiety becomes deeper and deeper. Like from surface level, oh shit, who's that stranger? Is he gonna rape me? To my deep interpersonal relationship with my mother, one of the closest people you could have a relationship with, and my anxiety surrounding her disappointment in me, her contempt towards me, what is she going to do next, the horrors of my childhood. It's fucking insane. And people have said it's really unpalatable, and I actually used to like I remember I really liked it when I first saw it, and then there was a big valley because I'm like, dude, the first half of this movie is way more entertaining than the second half. The entire, and that still affects my score on it. It affects it from being a much higher score. But recently, I have completely flip flopped on that movie, on Beau is Afraid, because as I've thought about it more, I'm like, the fact that there's so much more, not just subtext, but general text in general, because just a lot more just being said, not just on face value. So it's not just relying on subtext like a shitty Jordan Peele movie, but it's like it's seriously saying a whole hell of a lot. And it's just I need to have a different mindset when watching the second half of Beau is Afraid. So that affected my score a lot. And now I understand what the movie was going for, and it makes me really like it and appreciate it a lot more. Because people were just expecting a horror movie or some like anxiety-inducing movie, and they were disappointed for one initially when it didn't give them a typical horror movie, and then in the second part, when the second part of the movie just wasn't the same thing that the first part of the movie was. When really, I think just Beau is Afraid is a masterclass in setting and resetting your expectations. I remember I was bummed for like a week after watching. I'm gonna guess Synecdoche, New York. No, it's that movie. And the thing is that Philip Seymour Hoffman, I'd always seen in just side roles. Like he played the guy who was later recreated with CGI on the Hunger Games, and then he played that one incel in the Twister movie. And I knew he was an insane actor, but I'd never actually seen him in a lead role, kind of killing it. And in Synecdoche, New York, he demolishes that role so hard. And I'm like, this is why this guy wins Oscars. Now I understand. I know he played that really annoying, pathetic villain in Mission Impossible 3, and I have not watched that, so I'll work my way up to that. After seeing the new Mission Impossible movies that I actually really like, I liked Fallout so much. I went back and watched the original Brian De Palma directed one, and it actually was kind of bad. I didn't like it, and I know people like it. I just I don't know, it was just not as interesting. What I like about Mission Impossible is not it like, when it comes to a Tom Cruise movie, he plays the same character every time. So and because of that thing and the fact that Mission Impossible, it's just discount James Bond. And James Bond's already a kind of a discount movie series at points. So, already we're kind of it's like double downgraded. I know Mission Impossible has the capability to be like really good, way better than something like Transformers or Fast and the Furious. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm not expecting a deep, in-depth character study or anything like that. So, the fact that the first movie takes so much time, when I know for a fucking fact that we're just gonna end up in the exact same place that we started by the end of the movie, I'm like, just get to the action already. So I'm sure as we get, I know John Woo directed the second one, which actually is piquing my interest. I got to get on that. Even after watching the disaster that was Silent Night, like what the hell was that movie? So bad. The fact that the guy from the Suicide Squad was the protagonist was probably just sign enough for me to turn my tickets in and just get a ticket to, like, I don't know, Napoleon rewatch or something. Still better than Silent Night. I don't care. All right, I don't care what you guys think about the Napoleon movie. It's still better than whatever the hell John Woo's been doing recently in Hollywood. It's really sad too. He's such a good director. But uh-oh. That didn't go down properly. Okay. How do we deal with this? Give me a second. Jesus. I fucking hate doing that without water. It sucks every time. Anyways, as I was saying, that's why I'm excited to see this. You can't even see it and it looks terrible, but it's overexposed. But I want to see these two together in this movie. And this was exactly in between Synecdoche, New York, and what is it? Beau is Afraid. Those two movies were like a decade apart, but yeah, no, I'm just actually, it's more than a decade apart. It's like 15 years apart. But I just respect those two actors so much, especially after watching movies where both of these actors, Joaquin and Phoenix, I mean, Joaquin and Philip, were it felt like every single aspect of their person was on display. So it's like I know them. It's like they're my friends, even though they're not. But it's cool that I can watch a movie where maybe the two of them have chemistry together, right? They have a working relationship in this movie. It'll be like a crossover movie. So that's going on my watch list. And one more thing before I leave, because that was the last piece. This is my need to watch. So I have 16 movies I've not seen yet, and I need desperately to keep, them updated. I'm only keeping it strictly at 16 because it looks very symmetrical and nice. But on this list, if you can see it, is Lahain, House, Mulholland Drive, Cool Hand Luke, 8.5. Yeah, I know. Stop rolling your eyes at me. I've been told it's good. The Conversation, Nashville. You can't see any of this one, but it is The Long Goodbye, featuring one of the most annoying actors who's never been good in a movie yet. However, I'm still ready to ease my skepticism and actually watch a good movie with him in it. It'll just take me some time. Yi Yi, which is a very silly name, but apparently it's good. Barry Lyndon, yes. Spirited Away, yeah, I don't watch Ghibli movies, so I'm trying to get into it again after. Actually, I only watched one. I watched The Boy and the Heron, and that movie was so bad, so overrated, such like an actual nothing movie. It was an actual hollow pistachio shell of a movie. No substance. It was just a bunch of stupid visuals that the babies could cry over and be like, oh, look, flashing lights here. I'm jingling keys. Enjoy this, motherfucker. And it's such a shame that all the animators put all this effort into a movie that at the end of the day is not good. So for a Studio Ghibli thing, it's like such like the worst first impression possible. And people were telling me watch Spirited Away instead. Okay, sure. That's going on the watch list. I'm not much of like a animated or not an animated. I like animation, but when it comes to the whole anime thing, and the reason I say this, and listen, I'm totally open. I'm not like one of those. I know that there's a whole culture around being an incel with anime, and then there's a culture with being so fervently opposed to the idea of watching anime that makes you another incel in of itself. It's like the wannabe, just cool guy Redditor who refuses to partake in the beta male trappings of consuming beta male media. But no, I'm totally open to watching it. It's just every single time I see it, it just looks like the same movie. One of my favorite things about animation is that you are not bound by a style. You can model your characters. You fuck with bodily proportions and mess with like textures, colors, but every anime movie or TV show looks like it's made by the same guy. It's like the same style, same thing, same big bug eyes, and I know it gets the people on their body pillows with cum inside of it all soaking wet, and they get all fucking crazy about the exact same formula bodily proportion and all the same line work, all the same colors and all that shit. So I'm not sold yet. I know there are some apparently anime things that have some variations in art style and bodily proportions and stuff like that, but they clearly don't utilize it as much as Western animation does. Like every show, it's like a whole different universe. I feel like I'm watching the exact same show. Like if you showed me random shots from all these different anime shows, I could not tell you which one's which. Mainly because I haven't watched any of them, but like also because they look the freaking same. So, I feel like a lot of the anime fans compensate for that by just being so knowledgeable and so into these movies that like they're so they cannot, they cannot ever be unknowledgeable. Like you can't casually watch an anime. That's the impression I've gotten. Watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Very unique arts. Oh, I've actually heard about that. That's like one of the very few things. So I watched a couple episodes. I was in a dentist's office actually, and it was a scene about this JoJo character arguing with this blonde-haired guy who like flies or something, and they're like arguing about their powers. And I was like, they weren't even getting into a fight, but them just arguing and quarreling about like, when I'm inside the box, I cannot die. However, wait a minute, there's a gust of wind. I'm being blown outside of the box. That's right. I caused the gust of wind. And now you're outside the box and I'll kill you. Well, not to worry because I have control over winds because I have large fan blades on my cock, my magical cock, and they spin. Well, guess what? I have a large bone saw that cuts off your cock blades. Well, guess what? You can't do that. Actually, I can because that's not killing you. That's not what actually happened. It's not an actual transcription, but like it's just stuff like that. Just they were just arguing, and the argument was so funny to me, and it was so entertaining. I'm like, dude, an entire show of this would be so epic. So I don't know what episode that is. If you know what episode that is, please tell me, because it's such a funny fucking scene that I saw. And I'd never watched the show, and I asked the dentist, "What show is this?" And it was like some bisexual Asian lady, and she knew everything about the show, and she gave me a big rundown. Never got around to watching it after that, but like it's apparently very good. So no, I'm already sold on that movie. I don't even need your help. But thank you, Johnny Cook. You reminded me again. I'll have to get back on that. Because the only other actual anime was I was forced in 6th grade by a friend of mine, a classmate who was really into My Hero Academia, and I was forced to watch it. And again, I don't know if that's a bad first impression, but I was not into it. I was like, dude, this is like X-Men, but like a lot more gimmicky. And you can tell a reason a lot of people watch this is because it's like extra cutesy. And I can appreciate that. The cutesy stuff is funny and all that. And I'm sure it does something for some guy with a body pillow somewhere, as I've said before. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's a substitution in for actual story, and they're just dragging stuff out. Nothing actually happens. It's the manga, the however you pronounce it. Manga. It's better than the anime. That's good. Well, it's mid. Yeah, no, that's thank you. I'm glad somebody is not calling me crazy because everybody in my elementary school was so into that. And everybody was telling me, dude, you got to watch it. And I watched it. I'm like, it's not good. Then I was getting castrated in school. Not literally. Don't worry. I still have my cock, but it's fine. But anyways, then there's Old Boy, which was apparently very good. The thing that convinced me to watch it was YMS's review of the Spike Lee version, which was so bad. And I also don't like Spike Lee's politics. I think he's an idiot. So that convinced me. I know he's a talented director, but he's like the M. Night Shyamalan of black people. He made like one good movie, and then everybody trusted him, and then he made like some whack ass shit. I know he made like Black Klansman. I'm sure apparently that's good. Apparently, Adam Driver goes off. He like uses every word in the book. So, Oh, and then David Byrne from the Talking Heads, one directorial movie he made called True Stories. Everybody says it's good. People still refuse to tell me what it's actually about, which is a great sign of a good movie. The movie that inspired Kill Bill, everybody is like slamming Tarantino and saying that he's just a rote copy and paster. He's making worse movies than the super cool, totally politically innocent, poor Japanese people, when you guys know goddamn well Japs are fucking evil. And but on top of all that, they make good movies. So, I forgive the Japanese. It's fine. Calm down. But Lady Snowblood is apparently a good movie. Haven't seen it yet, and it inspired the entirety of Kill Bill. That's cool. This movie, which I know nothing about, called Workmeister Harmonies by Bella Tarr with 2 R's. You don't need that second R, lady. I get the pronunciation with the 1 R. It's unnecessary. Don't know why people do that, but it's some art house looking foreign film. I'm gonna assume it's either Italian or French because it has lots of hyphens. And then we have The Muppet Movie, which the only reason I added this is because I saw that it had a 4.0 on Letterboxd, which is really high, especially for something called The Muppet Movie. So, and this is when Jim Henson was still alive. So I have faith in him, but I'm still skeptical. I'm like, okay, there's no way. So of everything that you see here, that was so inaccurate. I don't know what episode you saw. No, the thing about the fan blades on the cock, that just don't take that at face value. There was some sort of thing about being in a box, and he was arguing with this blonde guy, and instead of fighting, they were just arguing the whole time. You have to just rewatch, re-binge. I'm sure for someone like you, it's easy. Re-binge the entire show. Excuse my burp. But out of all these movies, think about it on my stream tomorrow. Tell me which one I should watch. All right, I need a recommendation. There's a guy with arm blades. Okay, got it. Maybe that might be him. I think I just inserted a cock in there because just the cock inhabits my brain rent free. Lahaina House, Mulholland Drive, Cool Hand Luke, 8.5. The Conversation, Nashville, Galong, Goodbye, Yee, stupid ass name, Barry Lynn, Spirited Away, Old Boy, True Stories, Lady Snowblood, Workmeister Harmonies, The Muppet Movie. Those are your 16. There you go. So, think of a recommendation, sleep on it. Don't give me an impulse recommendation. I don't need it. And I will see you tomorrow. That'll be day 742. Make sure to live, laugh, cry, and also not die. And until next time, this is goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm not going to say stay safe, but just stay conscious.